big ones, the big things that kind of have to be checked off. I think the thing that everybody's concerned about first and foremost is access. Like your users have to have access to the right data. More so than performance, actually. Like if you can get a file, you can slug your way through like a crap performance to do work if you have to. But if you can't access the file, you can't access the file. So data accessibility is a big one. Performance is a pretty close second because you've got to be able to work with it. And then, the next one for me is just kind of that organizational aspect, the data uniformity, like not having 5 copies of the same stuff everywhere, because, you could satisfy those first 2 by saying everybody gets their own hard drive and here's, your 5 terabyte hard drives with all the data. You're going to end up with 5 different versions of everything at that point, and reconciling that, to Nathaniel's point, is going to be a disaster. And if it's 2 months before all this is done, that's 2 months of random stuff. Like that's going to be horrible.
Yeah.
And then the next one there is just having, consistent, not centralized, it doesn't have to be centralized, but consistent, complete backups. The ability to go out and get the right data. That becomes a lot easier if everything's centralized, but not necessarily a requirement. Those are really the big ones for me. There's some other secondary things in there, like, data redundancy and stuff for uptime, things like that just make it all the better. But those 4 points are really the big ones, accessibility, performance, uniformity, and backup, like having some kind of backup plan involved in that. If you can check those boxes in your workflow, you're in pretty good shape. That's super duper high level, and there's a lot of detail, when you get down to it in those. But those are the ones to care about. If you get those 4, you've got something of a workflow in place, and you can kind of tweak and make it more efficient from there.
All right.
The one thing I would add to that, though, is the ease of use side. This has been a theme in our industry for the last 20 years. Because ultimately, you've got a lot of creative users that aren't network admins that require network tools to get their job done. And making that simple is a huge task. What I've seen with so many of the remote workflows that I've heard customers talk about, that I've heard vendors talk about, that are actually happening out there, is the level of non-creative, data management tasks, data wrangling crap is astronomical compared to working in a local environment. So I think that ease of use aspect, and, kind of generically, like at ProMAX, we're always talking about allow creatives to be creative.
Right.
But I think that's actually really super important.